Oh, I think it's very clear. I'm with you, Jeremy. Any sovereign nation has got their own rules.
Yeah.
And they're applying their rules, which they're entitled to do. And he thought he was better. He thought he was one up. He was a bit like sort of the elite coming in his private jet, as you say. And he thinks he could be above the rules. And quite rightly, the Australians said, thanks, but no thanks. He had the ability, the opportunity to make sure that he complied with the rules.
Yeah.
And he clearly didn't.
He's been very vocal about non-vaccination, and to me, it seemed that he was trying to get past that. And the mother, oh, poor boy, yeah, whatever, ridiculous. And also, if I can, before we get onto the political stuff, the Colston Four, or the Bristol Four as they'll be known. Where do you're not a fan of the government, but politics is something in the law that you are, like I, interested and keen to talk about. But where do you stand on that? To me, it sets a dangerous precedent, but I was shouted down.
I think it sets a really dangerous precedent. And I listened to Chris Dorr earlier, and actually, on this subject, I disagree with him entirely.
Yeah.
The role of a jury is to leave their conscience at home, completely opposite to what he said. The role of a jury is to make an assessment on whether or not the defendants complied with the law or broke the law. They didn't even deny that they broke the law, but they basically said it was justified. And I'm afraid, I think the jury breached their fundamental duty as jurors, and I think it sets an appalling precedent. What's to stop anybody just going up to someone else's hedge or someone else's car?
If you're a postman, definitely.
Like your car, it's a hate crime, it's offensive, and therefore I'm going to damage it.
I'm really with you, and I think it does set a dangerous precedent. And of course, it's one of those things that really, always starts a huge debate. But to me, they must have been influenced by the political media storm that surrounded this story. And I'm not going to get into a discussion about Black Lives Matter at all, not doing it. But for me, if you create a situation where you cause criminal damage, you've caused criminal damage. You didn't see that Michael Wolfkind, a QC, who looked at me literally like I'd gone into his house on Christmas Day and nicked all his presents when I said, surely this jury have been affected. No, they're not. It's the legal system. These people were not guilty. And I'm going, but they said they were guilty. I just think it's frightening, and I think it says a lot about where we're at, to be fair, Rich.
I think it also says a lot about where the QCs are at, that they seem to now be upholding jurors that actually breach their duty to make an assessment of whether the people broke the law or not. And that troubles me as well, actually.
Woke QCs. Let's get to Boris, your favourite subject. And I've been looking forward to saying this to you, because you know what I think of you as a man and a politician, and I wish you the best of luck in everything you do. I know possibly this is because of the backbench rebellion, probably most definitely as much to do with the cabinet. But Boris Johnson has, in the last 2 weeks, nothing to do with the haircut or the tie, not only been proven right, whilst the lady from Scotland and the man from Wales have been proven wrong, but he's turned an 8-point deficit in the opinion polls to just 2 or 3 points in 1 week by doing what the British people wanted. Does that show us the vagaries of politics? Because suddenly, Keir having suffered COVID for the 1100th time this month, Boris Johnson seems a different animal this week, Richard Tice.
Well, look, I think polls go up and down, and you're into a new year. But fundamentally, credit where credit's due. Thanks to the 101 Tory MPs that gave Boris a backbone, he realised he was under a bit of pressure, not from the Labour Party, but from his own MPs. And so he actually made the right call. And I think all the evidence shows that is the right call. And all the evidence, I think, shows that new year, new strategy. People want to move on, Jeremy. That people are done with COVID. People feel that we've all done our bit.
Time to get back to work.
We've been trebled out.
Yeah.
And we're basically saying, hang on, we know there's always going to be give or take a new variant each year. We've got to learn to live with it. But it requires leadership and courage, Jeremy. And that's what I want the Prime Minister now to say to people is actually, we're well past the worst of this. And we've got to look forwards and deal with the other challenges the face. What he should do, in my view, Jeremy, is he should now have the confidence to lift the Plan B restrictions that he put in place at the beginning of December. I think it's appalling that with no proper evidence whatsoever, his education secretary has said that secondary school children are wearing masks. I mean, that, by everybody's admission, including the prime ministers and teachers, wearing a mask damages the children's education, and it causes them anxiety and mental health issues. And yet they've done it. So I think that's appalling, and they should scrap that. I'm really worried that he's in hock to the unions. But the big issue of the year, Jeremy, is not going to be COVID. It's going to be what you were talking about a little bit earlier on your show with your political mano. It's the cost of energy. It's the cost of what I call net stupid, not net zero, and the cost of living. And those are the big issues of the day. And the government's got some significant decisions to make. Otherwise, I think it's going to find that its poll ratings disappear very, very quickly.
In terms of Boris Johnson, and Peter's sort of educating me on politics and how much of a dirty game it can be, and it fascinates me. I make no secret of that. I was asking him earlier about Tony Blair's attempt, the knighthood, and Peter was implying that this is fantastic for Boris Johnson, that all the heat's now back on the Labour Party. What did they do about Blair? All those sorts of things. Apparently the Queen might have suggested, might somebody in government have gone, maybe it'd be a good time to give Blair that, knowing that 1 million people would rise up and say quite rightly what they say about Tony Blair. Somebody rang the show yesterday, I wanted to put this to you, and was talking about Boris Johnson. Again, I repeat, not about the hair and the tie, but about how he seems to be rejuvenated, probably need a break. And they were implying that his 6 or 8 terrible weeks, where he seemed to make mistake after mistake, it was perhaps down to the fact that he was completely knackered, had a new baby, had taken on too much and probably needed a refresh. And they believe that, well, Peter said, there's no doubt that he could get himself back out of this. Do you believe that? You're a political animal. Do you believe that Boris Johnson can come back from where he is?
Whatever anybody thinks about Boris Johnson, he is the master at digging himself out of a hole. He's done it throughout large chunks of his life in his various different roles. He's like the comeback kid. Just when you write him off, actually, that's probably the worst thing to do, because you know that at some point in the not too distant future, he's going to come back. But in a sense, he has to come back by making the right decisions. And I think you touched on it earlier, that if he changes course on the net zero issues, then I think that, in a sense, is the most significant decision that he's got to make. Because let me tell you, Jeremy, I knocked on thousands of doors in the last 6 to 8 weeks of last year. The vast majority of the population, they want to buy British gas, Jeremy. We're patriotic. We want to use our own energy that's under our feet, that's in our own North Sea. We don't want to buy energy from Putin. We don't want to buy energy from Macron and be exposed to them. And people. So I think that's the big thing that faces us, and we've got to reduce the cost of energy. And he can do that. It's literally in his gift. If he does it, then his poll ratings will improve. If not, then he's in deep trouble.
And I think what's really interesting is that I said it earlier to Peter. It is in his gift, because he could very easily say, I've gone down the green route. It's not either conceivable or financially viable. And he can say, I tried it. And he can then say to the Tories, I've done a U-turn and everything's good.
He can be more positive than that, Jeremy. Look, all of us, we're all concerned about the environment. We all want cleaner air. We all want to do our bit. But let's remember, our bit is 1% of the world, right? But the point is, let's do the right bit at the right price
at the right
time frame. It's pretty simple stuff.
But also, Richard, I said earlier to Ellie Mae O'Hagan, who got quite angry with me because she said, you're not understanding. It's the most important thing. I said, I don't care what anybody tells me, right? Men and women, the length and breadth of this country, not people in the London metropolis, right? They are not interested in green issues. They are interested in paying their bills, their mortgages, their rent, getting their operations, making sure their parents and grandparents are looked after in old age, and feeding their kids, Richard. That's a fact. They don't care.
Completely. And let me tell you, on the doorsteps, people were really quite rude about it. But there's a 3-word slogan that worked really well for me on the doors: save our boiler. People love their boilers. Guess what? They keep them warm and cozy in their homes in the winter. And gas should be, if we use our own gas, not someone else's gas, gas can be cheap. In America, they use their own gas, and it's about a quarter of the price of what it is here in the UK. So that's the opportunity we've got. We can have cheap, accessible British gas whilst investing in new technologies to reduce emissions.
One final question to the Tice master. Like America, do you see in the next few days and weeks a reduction of the isolation days from 7 to 5? Because one of the things that's patently obvious to me about Omicron is there aren't as many hospitalisations. It's much milder, and we are paralysing, are we not, a large number of workers in this country by it's 7. 5 makes a massive difference. I did something earlier, again, not very popular. Can you imagine that we get to a point where somebody goes, oh, you won't believe what happened to me. I woke up this morning, I've got a sore throat and I sneezed. Isolation 7 days, mate. It's not going to be like that. It can't be like that. We're going to paralyse ourselves, right?
Yeah, but look at the data, Jeremy. The reality is hospitalisations, the occupancy of beds in the UK is very similar to what it was 2 years ago before COVID, 3 years ago before COVID. Every winter, hospitalisations go up because it's cold. Sadly, elderly people may go in with flu. Now they're going in with a bit of COVID and a few other issues. This actually, it's like a normal winter for the NHS.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's busy. It's on the edge. We know that, but yes, they should reduce it to 5 days. We've got to get the country and the economy moving again. You've seen the streets. London's empty. It's deserted this week.
Completely.
It really worries me.
Completely empty. Just one final question. Richard Tice, always welcome on any show. What will you be doing at 6:30 in the morning?
Well, obviously, I look forward to waking up at 6:30 in the morning. The question is, will I prefer waking up with Jeremy Kyle in my bedroom or with Julia in my bedroom? I don't know the answer to that, Jeremy.
How about all three of us together? Thank you, Richard.
You must be sleeping in the office.
It doesn't matter. Dedication. Bit of dinner, come back, get prepared. Dave's making the sign of it. He's feeling very sick. Richard, thank you so much indeed. Really appreciate you being on as ever. Richard Tice.